Hello everyone, in this video we will discuss one of the most fundamental as well as most confusing topic of JavaScript, that is closure. You must have used this so many times while writing a program, but you might not have known that time that this is a closure that you're using. So what exactly is a closure? If you search in Google, you would find this definition that it is a combination of functions and the lexical environment within which that function was declared. So what this lexical environment means here? It means the environment associated with the particular function. For example, let's consider this example. So for the function 2, the lexical environment will be this circle that you are seeing right now. So all the variables, all the declarations in this lexical environment would be available to a particular function. Okay, you can also understand this in terms of scope. Okay, so for the inner function, it will be having access to its own scope, its outer scope, as well as its global scope. Okay, so that is a lexical environment. So let's discuss one example. So in this example, I'm creating one function, and in this function I'm passing two parameters. Okay, so inside this parameter I'm taking one more variable. Okay, I'm typing the message, let's say hello, your name is. Okay, so inside this function I'll create one more inner function, okay, which will act as a closure for the outer function. That means this inner function will be having access to its own scope as well as the outer scope as well as the global scope. Okay, so in this inner function I am just simply giving the alert. Okay, now after writing this function, I'll just simply call this function inside this outer function. Okay, yeah, so our small basic closure is created. Okay, so this inner function will be the closure for this outer function. Okay, let's call this function. Let's see whether it is working or not. You can pass any two parameters inside this function. Okay, so as you can see, the alert is coming. Okay, so yeah, this was the basic example of closure. So this inner function display is acting as a closure for the outer function, which will be having access to the lexical environment, which contains its own scope, its outer scope, as well as its global scope. Okay, let's do some variation to this closure. Okay, first let's clear the console. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some variation to this closure. Rather than calling this function, I will return the function. Okay, so you might be wondering whether this will work now or not, because in some languages what happens is only during the execution variables are accessible. After the execution, variables are not available in the memory, they get deleted. But this is the property of the closure. They create spaces, they create some like containers in the memory, and whenever we want to use the closure, we can use those variables, will always be accessible. Okay, so as you can see, I have returned the function in some variable, let's say closure1. So if I use it again, so these variables, so these parameters that I have stored in the closure, it will always be accessible whenever I will use it again. Let's use this. So yeah, as you can see, our alert is coming with the parameters that we have already set it in the past. Okay, so you can understand it in a way like whenever we create a closure, it creates a particular container in a memory. Okay, and this container does not get deleted even after the execution of function. Okay, it will always be available whenever we want to use this closure, in future. Okay, similarly for function 2, for function 1, okay, you can create so many closures. It will just create small containers in your memory, and it will always be available whenever you want. Okay, whenever you will need them. Okay, so now let's I'm going to tell you one property, that is console.dir. By using this, what you can do is you can see all the properties associated with the particular function or particular object. You will just simply pass a particular object inside it, and you can see then all the properties associated with that. Okay, so now I'm going to pass the closure that I have created. So as you can see, it is having some properties, and in these properties you will see the scopes. So these three scopes will be accessible to this particular closure. So in the scope you can see there are three closures that we have already created inside our function. First is first name, and then last name, and the message. So as you can see, these closures will be stored as a property in a function. Okay, so these closures will be stored in a memory in a small container. So whenever we will be calling a function, whenever we will calling a closure, it will look inside the closure property that are associated with it, and it will use those closures from there. Okay, so let's do one example of closure. I will make a particular function that will add two numbers. Okay, I'm going to use closure inside it. So I'll declare one more inner function inside it, which is taking second number. So it will just simply add these two numbers. Okay, so yeah, we have created a function. Now I will return this function. Okay, let's use this closure. You can take any variable, and inside that variable you can call the function. Let's say I'm calling it add3, and inside add3 I'm going to call this make adder function with the parameter, let's say 3. Okay, let's say I'm taking another variable which will make a adder for 5 number. Okay, you can also check the properties associated with this variable by writing console.dir. Okay, let's write console.dir. Let's see whether the closures are created or not. Okay, because you see we have already called the function and we have set the number 1. Let's see whether the closure is stored or not. You can see that by writing console.dir and then go to scopes. Inside the scopes you can see inside the closure that yes, the number 1 has been initialized 3 in the closure, in the container, in the memory. Okay, so now let's pass the inner parameter to the function. So how to do that? Just call the variable with the parenthesis and just pass the number that you want to add. As you can see, our result is coming exactly the same way that we wanted it to. So yeah, that means our closure is working. You can also check again by writing console.dir. Your closures will still be there. Okay, but in some programming languages it doesn't happen this way. Okay, variables, they get deleted after the execution of a function. So this is the advantage of closure. I hope you understood very well. Thank you for watching video. Subscribe for more videos. Thank you.